Welcome back to Momentous Struggle. This week, I have a non-Aubrey guest with me in the form of a Christopher Sampson. He decided to join me. We were talking at the shop, about 2 weeks ago now, I think, and you were talking about how you a thing that you would change in the game. So I was like, you know what, I want to talk about that in a little more detail. So I decided that, maybe I can have you on and we can talk about that. So I have you on today. So Chris, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad that you invited me on to rant to the entire internet about my random Shatterpoint thoughts.
I mean, it's fun. That's what we're here to do, is just talk about random Shatterpoint nonsense. I mean, why else do you have a podcast but to talk about random Shatterpoint nonsense to the and scream it out into the void? So why not?
True, very true.
I mean, like you started your own podcast just to do that even more. So I like that.
That's true. And actually, I had the same question where like, why am I screaming out into the void? And it's like, oh, because that's what I want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. It turns out it can be fun. So
yeah, I mean, and like the nice part about all of that is like you collect your friends, like, and you have like-minded friends that like just to rant at the same time. So now you get to do that with multiple people. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. True. Well, how are you, man?
No, I'm doing good. I had Father's Day over the past weekend, so did that thing, hanging out like with my family and stuff like that. My wife made a extremely large steak for me to eat and put me into a food coma because we were going to try and record Father's Day night, and then I was just in a food coma like that because like the steak she made took up like half of a normal sized plate. It was gigantic, and I just could not even stay awake after consuming that much food.
Todd sent me a picture. It looked really, really good.
It was good. She marinated the steak like all day in like a red wine vinegar mixture. It was really good. So it was a very flavorful. But yeah, no, and then like a big oven roasted corn, and oh yeah, it was a dinner for sure. It was a lot of food.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense that you'd go into a coma after that.
Right. I'm assuming you spent some time with your family and everything like that.
I did, yeah. I went over to my mom and dad's place, and I just surprised them. It wasn't a part of any preset plan. I was just like, I'm just gonna show up unannounced. Sort of did that. I ended up texting my mom before going over. I was like, "You guys are home, right?" And then she was like, "Yeah. By the way, do you want to come over?" And I said, "That's what I'm doing." So, yeah.
Whether you like it or not, I'm on my way.
Right. Yeah, it was good to spend time. We didn't do anything fancy. We went out for ice cream, and I had a niece and nephew there from Colorado, and yeah, just hanging out with the family. It's good.
That's pretty awesome. That's awesome. I mean, I know, like, yeah. I mean, I think we just had the dinner, and then my wife and like my youngest daughter, my 9-year-old, we played Yahtzee. So just a push, the push your luck dice game. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's always fun to do that. She's 9, so we don't get a lot of crazy games with her at this point in time. She's still playing like the roll the dice and move type of games.
That's fair. My mom loves Yahtzee.
It's funny. Like, I have like
it has travel Yahtzee. We played Yahtzee in the plane, like on a plane.
All right, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we do a lot of dice. Like my wife and I have like a Yahtzee Catan game that we play. So like we take that whenever we travel. Yeah, it's like you roll dice, and the dice are the different resources that you can use to buy villages and stuff like that. And it's interesting. I mean, it's a good travel Catan version. We do that at like my daughter's track meets because we're there all day. So it's like we bring like easy travel games with us, and that's one of them. Like it's interesting to see people that like know Catan, and they're like, "Is that Catan with dice?" I'm like, yes, it is.
That sounds cool.
It's pretty fun. All right. So you were talking about playing Shatterpoint, but changing a rule, and the rule was the error restrictions. So what is it about the error restrictions that you think, why do you think that needs to go?
The era stuff in Shatterpoint, I remember thinking about it when we were first hearing about the game. The game was coming out, and you're getting all this information. I thought that's a really really cool mechanic because you're going to end up having differentiations in how you build your list, right? Because of these restrictions. Restrictions can be a really good thing. They're not always a bad thing. It can make list building really interesting, which is I think why we all like point systems for a lot of our games that have list building. It just turns out that over the course of the years, we have a lot of different I want to say like things that people are interested in because oh my goodness, Star Wars is so vast. There's so much in it, such a wide galaxy, so many characters. Everyone has a different favorite, right? So they try in Star Wars Shatterpoint to reach a large number of audiences, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they kicked off with the core box was Clone Wars. You have a couple of Clone Wars boxes right after that, things up to through like Grievous, the Inquisitors, which are kind of multi-era, Mother Talzin, a bunch of early Clone Wars stuff. And then immediately after that, you go into the next era, which is the OG, episodes 4, 5, and 6 kind of stuff. You got Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, some stormtroopers. And then it just kind of keeps expanding because it turns out there's a bunch of different periods of time in between there. We've got 4 eras at this point in time for Star Wars Shatterpoint. But if you don't flesh out those eras, you can kind of end on an island sometimes. And I think one of the first islands, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, I think one of the first islands that we had was the Good Soldiers Follow Orders box with CT9904.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
It does. I think to a certain extent, the Mando box, like when Mando came out, because at that point in time, the only 2 things that like had the New Republic era, I think, was like the Mando box and the Moff Gideon box, if I remember correctly. So it was like, luckily, they both had the other eras as well, the Galactic Civil War era, so they could play with other things. But they were kind of like the only 2 boxes of that particular era for quite a while, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that can be a good thing in certain cases. Like I think a lot of Shatterpoint's design is the intent is that you can go buy a box and that box is going to play really well together. You don't necessarily need to go pick up 15 different boxes to have a functional list. Would you agree with that?
Right. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and so like we're versus like some other war games or skirmish games, it feels sometimes like the best way to build a functional list is you need to go buy a bunch of different things and put them all together. And sometimes that works really well in Shatterpoint also, but there are very few boxes I think where you can't just play a box and it's fine with itself. So I think that's kind of their intent is to, hey, you know what? It's okay if we have like a little bit of an island with Good Soldiers Follow Orders or with the Mando box because they'll kind of still function. They can play well with themselves, and then you can mix them with other things. Mando has been splashed everywhere since the dawn of time, since he came out. But I have a personal issue in that I like to play the characters that I really love, and the things that I really love happen to be some of the things stuck on these islands more often than not.
Right.
Like Good Soldiers Follow Orders. I'll say that one more time in case we didn't catch that the last several times I said that box name.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did change and add, the Galactic Civil War, but that Reign of the Empire, like out on that particular island for that era, was like just brutal because you couldn't do anything with that. It was, you were forced to play that box together, and it's like that box really needed to be broken up. And I can see where that would be like, well, where there would be some issues with that for sure.
Yeah. And you could always do some weird things. There's like some things you can do to use those units outside of their box, but it was never comfortable. Like you could take, I think you could have always taken Darth Vader Jedi Hunter with Gwarm and the Elite Squad Troopers. You could always do that, I'm pretty sure. But why?
Yeah.
Yeah, or you could take Obi-Wan out of hiding under CT9904 with whatever was in there with. Is just like, yeah, you can do that. or you could take Riva in that slot, and for the most, and that actually became okay. I did run that a lot later after there was an errata, and Riva got a lot better. But for
Mhm.
the longest time, it wasn't something you'd consider because she was kind of like at the very bottom of the bell curve in terms of this character doesn't perform to the point where it's not fun to play.
Right.
Um, but going forward, there are others that see this problem too. Um, there's not a whole bunch, I'd say. Like, let me pause there for a second. Remember Cad
Okay.
Bane? Like, we got Cad Bane's eras increased
Right.
to. Does he have all of them or just three? He's at all of
I,
them, right?
I believe he has all of them now, if I remember
Okay.
correctly. Let me take a. I can look him up really quick if I can
Maybe it's
find him in
Honda
the
with
right
just
spot.
the three. Yeah. So he ended up having. I'll just continue with my point though.
Right.
Cad Bane got his eras increased at the same time as a few other things, and I remember some conversation around that, people thinking, "Oh my goodness, this is going to break the game by giving a 9-point leader this much access, and people are going to have these crazy lists, and he's just going to rule the meta because you can do
Mhm.
so much underneath him." That didn't come that didn't happen.
Right. It didn't pan out.
Um, yeah, why do you think that is? Do you think that's Cad Bane's fault?
I think there's a couple things I think with that. So Cad Bane one only comes with two force. I mean, and at 9 points with two force, you really need somebody kind of
Mm-hmm.
dynamic. I think that's why the nine or the nines the 9 points. It works with someone like Cassian because he has some really dynamic things you can do with him. So I think that
Yeah.
within his identity, and you didn't the dynamic things that Cad Bane can do are very particular to another tag where that wasn't, which was it's a very restrictive tag in bounty hunters because there's not a plethora of bounty hunters where when you look at Cassian with comparing nines and 9 squad points with two, his identity works with Rebel Alliance and spies, so it's like it's there's a lot more Rebel Alliance, and it's a much more broader tag than just the bounty hunter tag. So I think there's a reason why he kind of didn't take off even when you added him having all four of those eras, because it's like he
Yeah.
just works with like a very restrictive tag.
Yeah, because like because you're only getting the one force and the one heal if it's not a bounty hunter. And you get a much larger payoff with bounty hunters, but when you end up getting the one force back when like Empire gets a kill, it's like, okay, well, I only brought two force. I don't feel like I'm getting ahead in the force, like how much I brought. And then other characters kind of get buffed down the line too, where Grand Inquisitor now does it better for Empire.
Exactly. And
Um,
again, I think the force economy is a big piece of it, where it's you need to have that force being able to do something. Like you need the force, and you need to be able to reliably refresh force if you're going to be utilizing that. And that's one of the things, especially like with Cassian. The biggest thing with him was you just brought Baze and Churret, who were automatic force refreshers and stuff like that. And again, his identity was just so solid that he was worth bringing, even with that limited force. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, force is a big factor. Tags are a big factor. I love that you called out that like that Cad Bane is more useful with bounty hunters because like that's kind of a part of my rant is that if you remove eras, and I'm gonna kind of pose a question to you, look back at any of the times, any of the like the big meta monsters, right? The really dominant stuff over because I think we've had a couple distinct um eras of Shatterpoint, right? A couple distinct
Mm-hmm.
years of Shatterpoint where things were dominant, different lists. If you removed eras entirely, do you think those lists change?
No, no. I mean, like especially when you look at like the the list that won the world championships, not this year but the previous year, with the Iden list. I mean, it was an Iden meta. I mean, and I think that's kind of where I think you're gonna where I had a feeling this conversation was going to go was again going back to tags, or it was more along the Galactic Empire and everything and building around those tags.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like Because I think back to now, I think this stuff happened a little bit before I really dove into competitive Shatterpoint. So you'll definitely correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. But like early on, it was like Darth Vader Jedi Hunter with thing, like plus X.
Yes. Right.
And that was a little bit more open just because Vader didn't care that much about tags. So plus X was like whatever you want.
Right.
um,
Right.
but also that's kind of a weird point in the game because we didn't really have like I think everyone that kind of was a mono era at that point. Like you didn't
Mhm.
really have a whole bunch outside of the Clone Wars to begin with. So maybe
No,
that doesn't matter.
I don't think it does. I mean, it's like when the game first came out, when Vader Jedi Hunter first came out, like one of the things that you did was let's play Vader with Grievous, and it was just like, okay, I just murder, and you just like sent Grievous forward like a rocket, and just added more dice, and he just was full tree every time. It was. My friend Frankie, he would always call it the asthma bros because like you had the two people that just couldn't breathe. So that was one of the things that I think you saw a little bit was some like that meta, but it was again like you were referring, it was kind of young. You only had so many models to begin with, so that like you kind of had
Yeah,
to have, I guess, the error restriction didn't matter as much because there wasn't a lot of eras back then. There was
that's true.
two eras at that point in time, Clone Wars and Galactic Civil War, so
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of eras to really mess everything up at that point in time.
true. And then past that, you ended up with like you got like a very early Moff Gideon stuff. You had the Iden era started to become a thing with the Kanan rising up to fight the good fight against the evil Empire. Um, but those things, I mean, like those things also aren't really seeing, and maybe this isn't a fair assessment of that point in the game because, like you said, the game was still young. Even
Mhm.
at a year plus in, it's still kind of young. That era was still being fleshed out, the Empire, the Rebellion stuff. But if you increase, if you just said there are no eras, take them off, you wouldn't end up seeing a clone. Like you wouldn't see clones mixed in with Empire or clones mixed in with Rebels because they do less for
Right.
Rebels.
Right. I think that was, and I think that's I wouldn't say it's not a flaw. I think that was just part of the original early design of the game. I remember
Hmm.
conversations I think I had with like Plumber or at least somebody from AMG early on in the game where they were talking about how they really felt like they didn't think people were going to dive into the tag synergies nearly as much as they did, and that was a kind of
Yeah,
the root behind having these error restrictions was because they felt that you needed that to kind of tether the list building, not really realizing that, oh my gosh, well, everyone's going to kind of focus on the idea of the tag synergies and things along those lines as much. And for me personally, it's like, well, what did you expect? Everyone likes to put things into these little bubbles, though. It's like you
I
look at
didn't want to
like,
say it.
but it's
Yeah.
it's true though. I mean, like you look at it and it's like I look at like because I play Marvel, like right there, obviously. I mean, and it's one of
Hmm.
those where, yeah, you can mix and match. Like you within Marvel, you have to keep within a certain affiliation, is what they call them. Like you have your Avengers, and you can splash a couple things that aren't Avengers, but at the end of the day, if you're playing like four models, three of the four models that you're playing have to be Avengers, or three of
Hmm.
the, or if 3 out of 5 you're playing 5 models, so you have to sit there and have like a core group. And I think that's kind of where we are with Shatterpoint, where it's like, okay, well, you can have like out of your 6 models, if what if 4 of them have that that era? Do you really have to have 2 that don't, or can you have 2 that are from a different era? And I think it's a good, I think, theory craft to do.
Yeah. Like I just think of and going a little bit further into the future, I think even the most competitive lists that we saw recently were I'm just going to make an unsubstantiated claim that I can't prove. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. The probably the most competitive list Shatterpoint has ever seen was like the Cassian and Boss lists.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say that there are no eras, I don't think those lists change at all. I think that they
Right.
were just about perfect, and that's because of their synergies. So what they were doing within those tags is just adding up to become more than a sum of its parts. Like uh, you can take like an Aura Sing, right? And if you put Aura Sing into a Cassian list, well, maybe this is a bad. Never mind. Aura Sing can take their tag. That's a terrible,
Right.
terrible example.
I was wondering where you were going to go. Then I'm like, well, yeah, she could take tags
So
of the
like that
primary,
doesn't sound awful.
right? Well, okay, so let's say you take instead of Orising, like let's say Bosch, Leia
Mhm.
Bosch, because like she's Rebel Alliance spy, but she isn't going to synergize perfectly, I guess, or even if you say like Guarm, like granted, I don't know why you would do that, but let's say something like that. It's
Yeah.
not gonna work. I mean, well, again, that's not the same. I see what you're trying to go with, like what's not in that particular
Yeah.
uh, era.
I guess
So
like if you took Shakti and put Shakti in
yeah,
like a Cassian list, or Paz Vizsla, if you put Paz in a Cassian list, um I still think like while that might be something you could do, that it wouldn't become the best thing.
right.
You'll still say, yeah, that's neat. You have some synergies with how those characters can work and some neat tricks, but probably at the end of the day, the thing we had before, which was all rebels and all clones, is the most optimized thing that you can do.
Yeah, and it's like, and the era thing. I mean, you're not even restricting it within the squad. Like you're restricting it with a squad, not the strike force or strike team. So
Mhm.
it's even so. It's like it doesn't put a restriction in place that really is hindering, other than it causes some units to not really be able to be played, like going back to your original gripe of good soldiers follow orders box with the elite squad troopers really didn't have a home for the longest time. I mean,
Yeah.
Crosshair didn't for his own other reasons, but there was
Mhm.
there was everything in that box just was not able to really didn't have a home, because you couldn't you could play it them somewhere else, but you just, because of the air restriction, weren't able to sit there and play them, I think, was the biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it, I kind of wonder. We're on the cusp of seeing what happens to the elite squad troopers now that they have had their era increased.
Right.
I don't know if they become an Empire staple, because we have some other really good Empire things at this point entering the scene at the same time that they're getting increased. Had you taken the gate off to begin with, I almost think that they would have been like an auto include in a lot of Empire lists 7 months ago. Now
Right.
that might not be true. You might not see them played just because there are new contenders. We'll see. We'll see. They're still very interesting, but at the time, right, one of the best things probably in Empire wasn't easily accessible and therefore wasn't getting used. Just like not because it was bad, just because you couldn't make a very powerful cohesive list.
Right.
Um, you know, uh and there are others too. I'm thinking of Balin right now, because I've been playing a whole bunch of Balin. I really, really love what his box is doing, but there's no obvious comfortable list. And I think we've seen a couple of the recent tournaments go get played, and people are playing Morgan. People aren't really playing that much Balin. Not that he doesn't exist, or not that he doesn't even have a good list. It's just it's uncomfortable to build a good list with him, because you just look at Empire and you're like, oh, Empire tag. Morgan goes with all of Empire, right?
Right.
And maybe that's just because I don't know, would like all of her stuff in her box seems pretty good. Um,
Oh, yes. I mean, I think her box is fantastic. And the problem is,
mhm,
I think the Balin box is fantastic. But like, to your
mhm.
point, it's what do you pair with him within his eras? And I think that's the biggest problem, is like really trying to find the place where he fits.
Yeah,
Because he only has one era. Like Morgan also does too, but she's got the synergies within the Empire, which is easily can be done. Where with him, he's kind of, he's that rogue mercenary, so he doesn't really have synergies with any big tag or anything like that. And I think that's the biggest
yeah,
workaround that people have a problem with.
Yeah, Balin's like this 7 point, so that's another issue. He's a 7 point leader in one era at the very end. Morgan's 8 points, so she does happen to have some other Empire stuff you can do with her, with the Moth Box being in the same era, and the
Right.
Moth Box is also 8 points worth of stuff. So you can kind of do a little mix and match with, do I take some of this, do I take some of that, versus a Balin who's like, well, he's his own thing, and he's 7 points, and there's not a lot of options out there. They do exist. You can certainly do some very interesting lists. I've been into the dojo a bit with that. Like you can put grief in there and all sorts of silly things, but in terms of I just want to make a really strong list, which is kind of where I'm on the mode I'm at right now, trying to solve competitively speaking, which is not the
Right.
only way to play the game, right? There's all sorts, you can do other stuff too.
Oh yeah.
But if I were to pose to you this example and say, think of the Mando box. The Mando, Din Djarin is everywhere. He's so good. He might be the best primary in Shatterpoint with how consistently he's just performed and been good.
Right.
Um, but if you told most players you have to play the Mandalorian with his box and nothing else, I don't
You wouldn't get
think you
played.
see, yeah, like I don't think he sees a lot of play in the last however long it's been out.
It's
Year and a
been
half.
Yeah, it's been over at least a year and a half. But yeah, no, I don't see that there's a lot that would happen with him. He's one because of grief and things along those lines. You definitely need to branch outside of just the boxes in order to really start creating competitive lists and things along those lines. I mean, it's and like you said, we're in that experimental time frame. We're only
Mm-hmm.
a month into the new meta and everything along those lines, so there's still experimentation to happen, regardless. But experimenting, I am interested to like sit there and kind of explore what that would look like to not have to list build without having those restrictions of eras. But at the same time, I think you have to have some sort of a restriction
Yeah.
in some way. Now, granted, the pool of characters is pretty small at this point in time, so like you can't do much. I mean, would you, if you were to remove the eras, do you think that you would need to have another type of restriction, like a tag restriction or something like that?
I mean, we do have points on all the units, and the
Mm-hmm.
leaders do have their own list building construction. Um, I so I think if you took off the eras that you still have a functional list building mechanic, like you have squads, you have to fit the number of points under the right things. Now, if I got more crazy, I'd say let's do away with all of it. You could just take a leader, you take any support, any secondary, but that might actually break the game. Whereas, if I was allowed to take 2 5 points, and because like if we just pretend points don't exist, that might be bad.
Right.
I'm not convinced removing the eras would be bad, because then you're still saying, well, I still have to. All right, let's say I can take Vader, Jedi Hunter, in the Clone Wars era. I still have to respect that he's a 5 point character, and I have to take a 3 point character to make up for that, a 3 point support under, whatever it is. I think you still have enough list building restrictions to make it matter. And then you're just doing what you're already doing, which is looking at tag synergies. How good of a list can I make with these tags? Or what fun list can I make? That is totally a valid option too, because if I sit down at Shatterpoint, it never made sense to me to say you can take this squad, but everyone within the same squad has to have the same era. But the guys on the other side don't have to have the same era, because that's so strange. Why am I allowed to play Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker on the table at the same time, but I can't mix their squads? So
I can
clearly
see
it's
that.
like a what if, and the era itself isn't like a hang up for the game, because you're allowed to play Clone Wars and not Clone Wars together. If that makes sense, why can't I take, you know, why can't I take something a little bit more silly, a little bit more absurd? Take some clones under Luke Skywalker, because the clones are already on the table. They're just not in his squad, which I don't see the huge distinction.
I don't think there's a distinction within that, but again, I don't. It's not going to be good as at the end of the day, just because again, like Luke Skywalker
Mm-hmm.
has his identity focuses on rebels, so it's like one of those where I think the way that the game has been designed and putting that emphasis within the identities based off of certain tags, like the big tags like Rebels, Empire, Galactic Republics, and things along those lines, really kind of restricted the list building. It didn't restrict it, but it just made it to where there was that synergy that you had to have in order to have
Yeah.
a functional team. One of the things, like, I was thinking about this as after we had our initial conversation about it, was what if you put the restriction of, like, instead of using the restriction of eras, what if there was a restriction of maybe tags, like everyone within the squad had to have like a rebel alliance, or, like, I mean, scoundrels or mercenaries or something along those lines? Do you think that that would be, again, too restrictive?
I guess I would, yeah, maybe, but well, I don't think it would be too restrictive. Yeah, I'm not sure that I haven't thought that one through, so I'm not ready to stake my life on that one just yet. But
Well,
I
I'm not going to
guess
put you to death if you get this answer wrong. It's
oh,
okay.
that's good. That's good. That's good. Well, I just think like you're absolutely right. If I put clones under Luke Skywalker, that would not be a very good list.
Right.
But if I ran Luke Skywalker with Anakin Skywalker, that's probably also not a very good list, and I can do it now. So
Right.
it's like if I want to do silly things and fluffy things and just do nonsensical stuff that's fun, I can already do that, and it's not a good list. So if I'm allowed to do not good list things, okay, go for it. But I think if you take off the eras, it doesn't stop you from being able to make good, bad lists, and you should probably be allowed to make bad lists, like just for fun. Like if I want to put all of the classic Star Wars crew together, I think you could find a way. Especially if there's no error restrictions, right? You can be like, wow, this is the original trilogy. Everyone's all in one room, for your team, and
Right.
that would probably be a terrible list, but it could also be a lot of fun to see it played, right? And just to be like, yeah, this is the thing. We're just here to roll dice, have some food and play games. But I also don't think, because of eras and tag synergy, I think you wouldn't break the game in the other way either, that the strong lists are already tag synergy lists. So if we introduced a restriction for list building and it was tag synergy, tag stuff, I don't think that changes anything for how the game currently is played at a competitive level. So if we're not changing anything for the competitive players, then why are we restricting the fluffy for fun players? That doesn't make any sense to me. Um, like let the players, I mean, and they can already do this. I think Plumber has said before that there's no AMG employee sitting in your house telling you, no, you have to play the game the way that we have designed the game to be played,
Right.
or else, right? That's just not
Right.
happening. You can play a game at home on the kitchen table and do whatever you want. If you want to have no eras, to go for it. But I think in a broader sense, I think it would be almost healthy for the game. This is my hot take, is I think it would be healthy for the game if we said eras don't exist.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only change I would make, because competitively speaking, I'm not sure that really changes a whole lot. But what I do think it would do is bring up some of the more dark horse things, and you could maybe have a little bit of more optionality with some of the wacky stuff. If
Yeah,
you
I can see that.
could take like an Aura Singh and put her under um, the Armorer and have that as a Mandalorian, and now we've got other Mandos in other ways. Probably things like Aura Singh get the most love, where this character has this great ability to borrow tags from anybody, but it doesn't get used because of such a restricted place that it can go. Aura doesn't see play because she has to fight for the 5-point slot with Shakti, and Shakti is just great.
Yeah. Arguably much better. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and if you expand all the eras, you probably still would have that. Aura would probably still fight for the slot with Shakti, because now Shakti can go everywhere also. But you might see more fringe lists. It just opens up the fringe list options. Where somebody could make a really creative list and be like, "Ooh, I didn't think of putting that there." And I'm not saying that this would be a top competitive list, but you might get more dark horse lists by doing this.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that it opens it up to like sit there and really kind of broaden what you're able to sit there and play with and what you're able to the list that you're able to develop. I mean, it'd be fun to kind of see what you can do with some of those units that just don't get a lot of love, like you were saying, like the Orisings, like the I mean, like Firebrand, because you never see him anywhere. It'd be interesting to see kind of where he could end up if you lifted up like those types of restrictions, and playing some of those characters that just don't see the table nearly as much. And I know, updates kind of help that. A lot of the units that weren't getting love, got a little bit of a touch in the update, veers and things along those lines, which is going to help that.
Yeah.
But there's other ways to go about it as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like you just get more. The good stuff is already going to be good stuff. AMG probably knows that the good stuff is tag driven. The game is tag driven. Whether or not it was designed that way initially, that is how it functions now.
Right.
So, this is the boat that we have built, and we have options, I think, to maybe make it a little bit more freestyle. And so my challenge to AMG, if you're listening, think on it. Like, do we need eras? Do we actually need eras? Because I think it just makes going to events and playing in public a little bit easier for fluffy lists and just having fun. And I don't think it breaks the game in any way. Of course, I'm not a game designer, so a game designer, I like don't take it the wrong way. If you're like, well, look, we designed it this way for a reason. I get it.
Right.
I just think that based off of what they're doing, which is making, I think they've said in recent interviews too, they're saying, hey, based off of the resources that we have, the release schedule that we're going to have going forward in the future years, we're going to expand the eras. And that's kind of why Elite Squad Troopers and Good Soldiers Follow Orders got to see an increase in eras recently with the errata. Because they're saying, okay, these things are on an island. And maybe the plan originally was to flesh out that era that he's in so that they're not an island. That hasn't happened just because of that's how it went, right?
Right.
Life had a different plan. And so they're saying, okay, well, let's release some of the pressure on these things and increase the eras so that they can be played with more stuff, because we won't have as many releases as we expected. So if they're already doing that, if we're already going to increase the eras, and I wouldn't be surprised if, in a year or two, we saw eras on other things that are played a bunch, like Kanan increase, eras, because he probably was in more eras than that. Stormtrooper Sergeant could be in more eras than just the Rebellion era.
Right.
Why is Stormtrooper Sergeant not in the Rise of the Empire era? I will never know. You have other characters with question marks, like you could look at the Mandalorian and say the Mandalorian is in two eras, the Rebellion era and the, what is it, New Republic era? And say,
yes, New Republic. Yep.
Yeah, but we haven't seen any content, I think, from the shows that is in the Rebellion era. It's only New Republic.
Right.
So there's like question marks that you have all along the road, saying, but why is this in that era? Why is this in that era? Get Aubrey on at some point. I know you already have, and just have him question all the eras for individual characters. Sure, we could say yes, Din Djarin existed in the Rebellion era. Okay, that's fair. He probably did. He was probably still doing his thing. Balin existed too, I would imagine. He got to where he was. I don't know that he changed a whole lot between the Rebellion era and the New Republic era. We don't know, but probably he didn't.
I mean, yeah, we know he was a Jedi during the Jedi Order, so I mean,
yeah,
and he stopped being a Jedi during that point in time. So Galactic Civil War, Reign of the Empire, he existed in 3 of the eras.
Yeah. And he was probably doing the same thing during that time, training new people, finding his way, finding this path that's outside of the Jedi, which probably mostly happened immediately following the fall of the clones and whatever his backstory looks like, which we don't know. But
well, we probably will in a when that next season of Ahsoka comes out. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit more there.
I hope so. Yeah, give me like Tales of the, I don't know.
Tales of the Fallen Jedi.
I guess so. Tales of Order 66. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, what my point is to say that if I were to challenge them, I'd say like, do you think it's possible that if you took off the arrows, that it sounds scary, and I know that looking at Cad Bane when he got all the arrows, that we were worried that Cad
Mhm.
Bane's got all the arrows, this is going to break the game, and it didn't, because Cad Bane is an agnostic character that has a limited range of tags, and those things haven't really seen a whole bunch of growth since the game released. I I just think the game stays within its tag lanes, and if you took off all the eras, you're not going to change the competitive things, but you might increase some of the floor for where a competitive thing might land.
So what I hear you saying is that Todd needs to sit there and run an event that is errorless, no error restrictions at all, and run an event like that just to see what happens.
I think that would be a really fun experiment, and I don't know if I would be going into that thinking, "Ooh, I want to be competitive," or if I'd be like, "Yeah, I know I can put some clones under Luke. It's gonna be awful, but I'm gonna have fun doing it." And
Right.
you know, I don't
I
know.
can see that. I mean, I think it's unfortunately with like this event schedules go like, because this weekend coming up we have the team event with Green Banner, and then like what is it, about 2 months after that we have Smite Club Open, which is the GT, so that's coming up in like August. And then then we're August into April, or August, September, so then October, like about a month and a half after that, we run into LVO. So I'm gonna have to find some time in there to sit there and run this event. But you've convinced me that I have to do it though, Chris.
I mean, I think it would be a lot of fun. We could even just show up on a weekly meetup day, or any day of the week and say, "Hey, let's just go play a game," and we're just gonna we're gonna do our kitchen table Shatterpoint and ignore the eras, and we can play the game how we want to play, and try something fun. That doesn't remove my challenge to AMG to say, "Hey, do you think we can take off all the eras?" I don't know that they'll ever do that, and it might not even be up to them. But the challenge stands.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at eras, I mean, like if you approach it in the same way that we kind of look at some of the tags. I mean, like you look at 501st tag that Anakin has. There is literally no reason for that 501st tag to exist other than it's just a fluff tag. It's just there for the actual just ambiance of the whole thing, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. And like Shadow Collective for Maul, there's nothing that ever came of that. So there's these tags that kind of exist just for lore purposes, I guess. And I mean, I guess you can kind of look at eras as converting to that, where they're just there for the lore of it, just like those 501st tags and things along those lines, like the Clan Kreese on Bo as well. That tag has nothing to do with it. Death Watch has nothing to do with it. Night Owls have nothing to do. Like 3 of her 4 tags have no synergies whatsoever. So I think you could look at it that way, where it's like, okay, it's just for lore purposes, and move forward with it like that. And I think that's a valid thing to discuss and think about.
Yeah. Or it's a fluff tag until it isn't, right? Or you got like some new game mode comes down the pipe and it says, okay, well, if you have the 501st tag, you can do these things, and it's like a narrative kind of a thing. Who knows, right? Or some character comes out like a different version of Rex and it's all 501st tagged things. Yeah, like
right. But I mean, but we don't see that right now. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't exist in this current environment.
Yeah. So like, go ahead.
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, yeah, I would absolutely love to see an event like this, like a tagless or an errorless event.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just have to sit there and see what I can do about that and put something together. I guess, like, for our local players that are here in Arizona, let me know if that's something that you really want. And because I think that I like the idea of making an event with something like that. Because I know Aubrey did his World Between Worlds, where you could sit there and take. Like he did in one where I think he played every Ahsoka in his list, and so it was like both primaries and the secondary Ahsoka all on the same. So like you can sit there and play around and have something different. So why not give it a shot and see how people like it? So I guess good.
I was gonna say, and maybe it changes nothing. Maybe we all still show up because we're sweaty tryhards, and we have all all right, our lists are the same. I'm still playing Delta Hunter. I'm still playing, Cassian and Kanan. Who knows? Maybe it changes nothing, and you can say, well, hey, if they want to have fun with it, great. If they don't, that's fine too.
Yep, definitely. So if we remove the error restrictions and you were to sit there and go to an event like this, what would your list look like?
I would try to break Balin.
Okay.
So I don't know. I would try to like use Aura Sing in some really cool list. Like maybe Aura fits under Morgan, and I can make Aura either like an Empire or a Dathomirian of some type, and I can then, I don't know. I don't know what I would put under that. Some sort of 3-cost. I mean, but my first thought was really Balin. Like if I could take Balin and say, hey, let's do Balin Empire. I could do Balin Sergeant with Shore Troopers. Because Shore Troopers are already doing like a hunker thing. And
Right.
that's kind of interesting. There's some hunker mechanics in there, so I'm building around not just a tag synergy, but like a mechanical synergy within the game, saying, okay, Balin works with hunker tokens. The Shore Troopers do something with hunker tokens. So we can now build an empire list around how Balin is working, how his mechanics work, and the only thing holding us back from doing that now is like a point cost plus error restriction. But there are 3 costs and 4 costs. We just have to find the right place to do it. So then you could take Balin in with pawns and the clone commandos and say, okay, yeah, we do have General Obi-Wan doing a hunker thing, but he's not doing it in an offensive way. He does it in a defensive way. Why not both? Porque no los dos. Let's have both General Obi-Wan and Balin together, but all clone synergy. And you've got like I can use this offensively and defensively, but I still have like a coherent team. I mean, you can do that now, but like then the Balin side is not super coherent with the rest of the team, and that's kind of ends up holding it back. Or the other way around, whichever way you'd like to look at it. I mean, I could build Balin with Bodhi and some rebel stuff. That sounds awesome because the clone commandos already start with a hunker token at the start of the game. Why not start with 2? And then I can draw them turn 1 and give them a 3rd hunker token. And now they're basically getting full expertise on an attack.
That's kind of gross, but yeah.
It is kind of gross, yeah. I mean, you could actually still do that if you put like them under PLC, but it would be a more synergistic way to run it. And that's kind of what I'm thinking would be interesting. So I try to break Balin, but I'm not sure that I can. I think it would be like, yeah, that's good. But is that going to win a tournament? Maybe. Maybe if I pilot it well.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's like you kind of hit on something. Like, no matter what, it always comes down to the pilot. I mean, there's a reason why when you look at Longshanks and event results and things along those lines, you see the same 20 players that kind of like always rise to the top. And it's because there's people that just are better at piloting the game than others. I mean, and there's nothing to say that, there's some players it's not saying players are bad or players are good. It's just that some people just have that innate ability to sit there and play these games at a different level than I think other people do. So I think that's kind of all that it really comes down to. Or
they just have a lot of free time. If you put more time into something, you can just brute force stuff, right?
Right. So you're saying that, like, the fact that I'm married with kids really is kind of holding me back, and I just need to get divorced. Got
Maybe getting divorced so that you can become like a top tournament player at Shatterpoint is not the path that I would advise you take.
All right, fine. My wife would probably agree with that.
Just something you want on your headstone? I don't know, like best Shatterpoint player ever. I don't. But that's probably not it.
No, you're right. That's probably not the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, I think we're going to have to take this experiment to the next level and actually put it into some live play and see what happens for sure, and go from there. I don't know. What do you have any closing thoughts for on this topic though that you wanted to make sure that everyone knew about before we kind of close it out?
I mean, maybe try some wacky stuff at home. I know that other people are also experimenting, and like, I'm not saying that you should just go out and, You know what? I don't know what I'm saying, Todd. I just
don't go out and make a bad list just to make a bad list. But I think it's more along the lines of go out there and kind of like experiment with what the possibilities are when you take away that restriction. I think it's kind of probably, I'm assuming I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's but I think that's kind of what your thought is.
I think that's great. I want that one. I choose that one.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think I really am like, I like the idea of like kind of looking at, what we can do with the era restrictions and things along those lines and removing those, especially like, even maybe like doing something with Lando because he has that scoundrel, ability within his within his kit. So it's like, okay, now you can take scoundrels from any era, not just the Empire or, not just the Galactic Civil War era. So might, opening up things like with him would be kind of interesting too. So I don't know. I think I like the idea. I think it'll be fun to kind of like put an event together and like let everyone kind of really kind of come together and think about what they can build with that and then see where that goes.
Yeah. And before, I guess for my closing thought, it would be that I just have to put this disclaimer out there so that I don't take any heat on this one thing. And that is, Aubrey is way ahead of the game. Because if I recall correctly, he did play Luke Skywalker with clones. So it was actually his idea all along.
You mean when he was originally cheating, 2 years ago?
Yeah, cheating is maybe a harsh word. He was just ahead of his time.
Okay, Aubrey, the soothsayer of the future. There, got it.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to close out by thanking everybody for tuning in, listening, and I would be interested to hear, if you could join the Discord and know what you think about this and if you think this is a good idea, if it would be good for the game, fun for just something casual to do, or if it's something that needs to go a little bit farther. But if you want to do that, jump in our Discord. It is free to join. The link will be in the description below. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a patron on patreon.com. For as little as $1 a month, it really does help us out with adding equipment and things along those lines whenever we go to the different events we go to in live stream. It helps us upgrade the equipment so we don't look as horrible as we did when we first started doing this, which is really kind of the goal, is not to look bad, but sometimes I'm really good at that too. But yeah, but if you would appreciate it. If that's not for you though, you can always review the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, or on the YouTubes. You can like subscribe, leave a comment and things along those lines. But, as always, I want to thank everybody. And as Chris said, let's throw those eras out the window and let's play some Shatterpoint.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.